On a more serious note, I live in Minneapolis, and as you know, George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis on May 25th by a Minneapolis police officer. Gabby and I wanted to take a moment just to reflect on George Floyd, his death, and what it means. It shouts out, George Floyd's death shouts out to the nation and the world, actually, about the devastating impact of bigotry and hatred. As people with disabilities and their allies, we know the devastating impact of othering. We routinely fight diligently against the trope of ableism, of them versus us, of patronization, pity, marginalization, stereotyping, and so many more negative constructs that throughout time have cast a shadow on people living with disabilities, mental health conditions, and those who love them. In addition to ableism, disabled people of color are subjected to racism. It is this disease that threatens us even more than COVID-19, for it has existed in this country for over 400 years and continues to silently spread unabated. Every time I see George Floyd's face, I want to cry out to God, why? How? What evil inclination brought a Minneapolis police officer's knee down on George's neck and kept it there for an appalling 8.5 minutes to a certain death? And what evil inclination drove the other 3 officers to stand idly by while George's life was taken from him? In Jewish custom, there are 2 inclinations, Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, and Yetzer HaTov, the good inclination. We are called to channel our collective Yetzer HaTov, to take action now, to heal, to mend, to cry out against injustice. Our society can no longer tolerate hatred and bigotry of any kind, and that requires us to be better than we've ever been. May the memory of George Floyd be a blessing to our world, igniting our Yetzer HaTov, our good inclination to reclaim love, not hate, peace, not battle, justice, not indignation. It is only then, through our actions, that we can truly magnify peace upon the world, upon our communities, and in our own hearts. Well, Gabby.
Shelly, I actually want to take a deep breath and just take in your words. They are so moving, and you capture what I think so many of us here have been feeling on our hearts, and that you were able to just capture that is so powerful, Shelly.
Thank you.
So I will take just this moment to share for anyone on. Everyone's welcome today who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting. My name's Gabrielle Kaplan-Mayer. I work for Jewish Learning Venture in the greater Philadelphia area. I'm the Chief Program Officer, and for the last 7 years, I've had the privilege of directing our whole community inclusion initiative, which focuses on raising awareness and providing supports to make our Jewish community here in the greater Philadelphia area inclusive for all people with disabilities and their families. I shared with Shelly earlier, we just literally launched a brand new website called jkidaccess.org, where you'll find all kinds of really cool social stories and videos and resources for families and educators, and where all of our Everyone's Welcome episodes will live. So we'll send that out in the show notes. And Shelly, tell us about your amazing self.
Well, let's see. I've been working in the field of faith community inclusion since 2001. In fact, my first day on the job was September 4th, and a week later experienced September 11th. And it's been a long time. I feel like when I first started, I was a parent and my heart was in inclusion. But I've learned so much, I've learned so much in all these years from Gabby, from so many of our colleagues and friends, and from my friend Liz Weintraub, who we've known each other since 2009 when you were a speaker at the National Leadership Consortium on Developmental Disabilities at the University of Delaware. And I was a freshman. I was a newbie to the concept of leadership and inclusion. So we are just so thrilled to have you here today, Liz. And I want to welcome you and tell everybody about who you are. And you join us today from Rockville, Maryland, where you are working from home. Liz has a long history of leadership in self-advocacy and has held many board and advisory positions at state and national organizations. She is a full-time member of the AUCD's policy team, that's the Association of University Centers on Disability. And she's also the host of Tuesdays with Liz, Disability Policy for All, where she attempts to make policies in accessible language so policy is accessible to all. In the spring of 2018, Liz served as a fellow for Senator Kerry of Pennsylvania, working in his DC office, where she helped lead the way on disability policy by helping the senator hold the administration accountable for disability stakeholder input into key programs, calling attention to the need for accessible supports and services for students and employees with disabilities on college campuses who have been sexually assaulted, which resulted in S 2530 Senate bill, and helped organize the first of its kind Pennsylvania Disability Employment Summit with over 250 participants. Senator Kerry said this about Liz. Liz has shown the Senate how important it is to have staff members who have developmental and intellectual disabilities. She's helped reshape the culture of the Senate. And in the fall of 2018, Liz told the story of her personal experience as a woman with disabilities as she testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee about the potential implications of a Kavanaugh confirmation to the civil rights of people with disabilities. You can read her submitted written testimony and watch her oral testimony on the AUCD website. Prior to coming to AUCD, Liz worked for the Council on Quality Leadership, known as CQL. She's a past chair of the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council and is rejoining the council for another term. And Liz has received numerous awards, recognition, and commendations for her work. Liz especially enjoys mentoring people with disabilities. And Liz and her husband, Phil, live in Rockville, Maryland. Welcome, Liz, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Shelly. Just so, can I correct you? You said Kerry, Bob Kerry, and you probably misspoke. That often happens when there's so many senators. But it was Bob Casey from Pennsylvania. So I just wanted to clarify that.
My apologies to Bob Casey, Senator Bob Casey, and to you. I don't know what came up. It says Casey right here on the forms. Anyway.
And Liz, I'm in Pennsylvania, so this is very special for me that your experience with Senator Casey. And so I'm gonna jump in and ask you our first question, which is, what inspired you to become a policy and disability rights advocate?
Well, thanks for that question, Gabby. It began when I was really little. And maybe my family is very unique or boring, but I think they're very interesting. Almost all the dinner conversation was about policy. And I never understood what policy was. And I kept on asking mom and dad, and I sat at the table. I was included at the table, and like a lot of my friends, a lot of our friends, I'm assuming everyone here, that's why you're here, to talk about belonging. Everyone, welcome. But I wasn't included. I wasn't included. My parents kept on saying, well, go away and look it up. Look it up. Look it up. Look it up. Because they didn't understand. They didn't know why. Why would a person with an intellectual disability want to understand about policy? How could we be part of talking about policy? And yet, as a 10-year-old or a 13-year-old, however old I was at that time, maybe I was even younger than that. Why would I even care? But I cared because I wanted to be part of the conversation. I wanted to understand what was the policy. So, and when I would look it up, the words didn't mean anything to me, and still it doesn't mean anything to me sometimes when I look up things. And so I wanted to make sure that my friends would be able to understand. And so when we go up to Capitol Hill, or when we go to our capital in our states, then we know how to advocate for ourselves. And then the other reason why I wanted to be an advocate is because I wanted to speak up for my friends. So we could have a voice in what's going on.
So thanks, Liz. I love your story. I can just imagine at the Weintraub, not the Weintraub household, at your family household.
Yeah.
The conversations must have been great. So you're currently the senior advisor, advocacy specialist on the policy team at the Association on University Centers on Disability. What were some of the things that you were working on before COVID-19? And what are some of the things you're working on now?
Basically they're the same. I'm working on plain language. Because I really believe that plain language is the way that we all belong. If I don't understand something, and if it isn't words that are too big for me to understand, I can be part of the conversation. I don't feel like I'm welcome in the conversation. And I use welcome because that's your whole series is welcoming. And I love that. I also have worked on like other legislation like the ABLE Act and making sure that people can live in the community just like anyone else. People can, that people need to not be in institutions and be shut away from society, because we all belong to this country and we all belong to our country. Our community, I should say. So that's basically what I do.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. I'm going to go back to Senator Casey, which I'm happy to do. When you were a fellow there on Senator Casey's DC staff, Shelly's going to bring up Look at that awesome picture of you with Senator Casey. If those, we have people on from all over the country, so some of you may not be familiar with him. Can you tell us, what did you do there as a fellow on his staff?
Okay. First of all, I wanted to say that Senator Casey was and is still one of our biggest champions for inclusion, for our issues. But what I was originally asked to do was and you mentioned the Disability Employment Summit that he hosted for people who live in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you had the opportunity to attend that summit, Gabby, but it was a roundtable where he wanted to hear from citizens of the state and to understand about employment. Employment is a big issue for him, just like it is a big issue for people with disability. Pardon me. It's one of the highest, we as people with disability had the highest, one of the highest unemployment rates. I don't understand the numbers, but I know that it's very high. And because people don't give us a chance to work and don't believe that we can work. They might say, oh yeah, you can work in a workshop, or you can work in a day program. But we would like to work in the community just like anyone else. So that's one thing that I did. I also just followed the people around. There's a staff called Michael McCormick, who's one of his probably his chief policy, disability policy. So I talked to I followed him and see what he was doing. One of the things I was the most proud of was I helped him write a question for the Guardian hearing. He's the minority leader for the aging committee. So I sat in the aging committee. So I didn't actually sit in his personal office. I sat in that the aging office, and he and Senator Collins led a hearing on guardianship and the abuse and all that. And I helped him raise a question about that, and he actually asked that question during the hearing. So that was really exciting. As I think you mentioned about the sexual abuse on campuses, which is a big issue with people with disability kids who go to college. We want to go to college, but and they do work with college kids at EUCD, but that's a big issue about sexual abuse on campuses. So I helped him write a report that came out that he helped draft legislation and a report around sexual abuse on campuses. So those are probably some of the highlights of my 4-month fellowship that I did.
Great work, Liz, as always. Something else we wanted to ask you about. Why did you testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee about the Kavanaugh confirmation? And what testimony did you give? Here's a picture of you on C-SPAN during your testimony.
It went back to when I learned about the case, and yes, I needed help to understand about the case because I didn't understand the case. But once I understood, I said it was my case. It was my case. And it was definitely not my case. Who am I? I'm just Liz Weintraub. But what I mean by that was I was probably 20, where I was left out of a family discussion. And it really hurt my feelings. I was close to being adult, and it was about me. It was about my life because I'm part of the family, and I was left out of that discussion. And when I learned about the Kavanaugh case, and I don't know if people, your listeners, will know about the case, but I said to my bosses, gee, that's my case, because there are so many times that we have been left out of this decision. People often will ask me to stay out of a conversation or behind closed doors because how could I ever understand what's going on? Why should I even care? I'll do whatever mom and dad want me to do. I'll do whatever what my provider will want me to do. So so I wanted to make sure that I told my story firsthand. And that's why I wanted to testify. And I was so honored to be asked to testify.
Thank you, Liz. That is just so meaningful, the way you were able to describe that. And I'm actually going to switch gears a little bit now with you on topics. And I want to remind people who've tuned in, these are generally 30-minute conversations. This is my last question for Liz. And for people who want to stay on, you'll be able to type a question in the chat box. But Liz, you've been an advocate on many different issues, and you also speak about belonging to the Jewish community. And so I'd love to hear about what it means to you to belong in your faith community. And how do you see belonging different from inclusion?
Okay, sure. Inclusion doesn't mean belonging, first of all. They might seem the same and they might be very similar, but they're totally different. And I can tell you, inclusion it's just an easy way to say, oh yeah, I include people at the table. They can come. They can come to hear me. They can come to see, they can come and put a Band-Aid, quote, a Band-Aid on the fix, and say, oh, gee, they come, look at me, aren't I so special? I included people. But belonging, pardon me, belonging takes a lot of work. Including us and making us feel like we belong takes a lot of work. And you can't just say, well, do it in a minute or two, because it taking and supporting me to belong to the discussion, I may need someone to help me understand material. I might need someone to help me figure out the words that I want to use about things. You can't just say, well, I'll put you at the table and I'll include you. And isn't that inclusion? Look at me. I'm so special, I included Liz. But if Liz doesn't understand what's going on in the meeting, then I don't feel like I'm included. I don't feel like I belong in the discussion. And sometimes I will cry, or I feel like I want to cry. And I can tell you, there are so many times, I work in the policy field, and one of the things I do is I go to meetings and to try to advocate for my friends and other people who we represent. And some of the words are really hard for me to understand. And if I didn't understand them, I don't feel like I belong. And there are times that come into, I leave that meeting and I think to myself, I want to cry. How I don't belong in that meeting. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does, Liz. Thank you. And can you take a moment? Tell us about this. Oh, Shelly, can you go back to that picture that was on? Liz, tell us about this picture.
That's my husband and I, and we were walking one day. I think I might have been with Shelly. I'm not sure. But it was in the Cherry Blossom Festival. And for those of you who haven't ever been here in DC, it's a beautiful time of the year. It's just a gorgeous time. And unfortunately, this year wasn't the best year to go because we could not go to the cherry blossom because of the virus. And we're sorry about that, but I encourage you to go. We've been married for 15 years. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary a few years ago, a few weeks ago.
Mazel tov, Liz. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned before, as we're coming towards the close of our time, if you have a question, if you are able to type it into the chat box, I know we're all getting to be experts in Zoom at this point. So hopefully you have your chat box accessible, and go ahead and type that in. And Shelly, I know you had a few more slides you wanted to share.
I'm muted. This photograph was taken at quite the auspicious day on Capitol Hill. We are sitting with Senator Tom Harkin, one of the framers of the Americans with Disabilities Act, who came to speak with us on Jewish Disability Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C. And Liz was advocating in her Jewish community, bringing her political expertise and her policy expertise to share with us. Liz, you wrote What It Means to Belong, and we wanted to, we wanted to share this. I'm wondering if you could read it for us.
Yeah. I'll try to. I was told this country is made for you and I. I was told that this country is made for you and I. I was told that everyone lives here. The beauty of this country is it's for all. Everyone is welcome here. That's what I was told. The reason why I love this country is because I thought it was for all. And if that's not true, then I would be sad, because I want all to mean all. I love all my friends, not just some. I can't pick some. That seems wrong, but people make me pick. Why? Why? I ask. Well, I guess because life isn't fair. How should I pick? Who should I pick? Do I pick people who are smart? Do I pick people who are smart? That's wrong. Do I pick people who look like me? That's wrong. Do I pick people who have money? That's wrong. I know who I'll pick to be in this country. Who you ask? Everyone, because all means all. And that's for me. And that's a picture of me testifying. And I said all means all in the Kavanaugh hearing because if you remember, if you know your Constitution history, one of the lines is justice for all in this country. And is that truly justice for all? No, because all doesn't mean all. All means, in their eyes, it means some. But I want it to mean all means all.
Thank you, Liz. And your poem is so powerful. I just wanted to share a question that one of our participants asked. Wendy Elliott Vanderveer, who's a friend of mine here in Philadelphia. Wendy is, I want to just say, very active at her synagogue. And she asks, how can synagogues be more welcoming of disabled people?
That's a great question. And I didn't say this, but my husband is on the board. He actually was asked to be part of the rabbi search, a few years ago, and he asked. I was told that he participated in that very well. But to answer your question, is I really believe that it comes from the top. It needs to come from the top, and we're very lucky at B'nai Israel. We have our rabbis really do believe in people with disabilities. Um, from the emeritus to the rabbis now. So I think that it's just like anyone else. You need to have the people need to believe in people with disability. I was just on a doing a Tuesdays with Liz interview today where we were talking about that the belief needs to come from the top. They need to believe that we can do this. They need to know that we can belong and we're not just people.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. I just wanted to share from the chat also, this is more of a comment actually than a question. And it was from Benjamin, a remark on Shelly's powerful remarks about George Floyd, that Maryland has had several unlawful deaths of individuals with disability by asphyxia. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about Ethan Killer. I don't know if you were referring to Ethan. Is your name Ben?
Yes, that was from Benjamin.
Okay. Ethan Thaler was I know his mother, and I knew of him, but he was a person with Down syndrome, and this happened probably, I'm guessing probably 3 years ago, where he was watching a movie in the movie theater, and he liked the movie, and so he wanted to watch it again, and he didn't understand that when you want to watch something, you should go out and buy a new ticket, and he didn't understand that, and I think that's very common for people with disabilities. They just don't understand. And so the police people, the security people came and grabbed him and beat and held him and suffocate and held him just like they did, I'm assuming, to George Floyd, and he and his staff said, no, please let me deal with this. Let me explain this to Ethan. And Ethan was his name. Let me talk to Ethan. And the police said, no, I'll do it. He did something wrong. And they suffocated him.
Oh, Liz and Benjamin, thank you for bringing that forward. It's so tragic. And I think this week, starting with our dedication that Shelly shared at the beginning with George Floyd, reminds us that this is a moment where we are hopefully bringing these stories to light, to people's consciousness. Stories like that, so many stories haven't made the national news. And we will continue to work on this. Thank you, Liz. This has been amazing. Shelly, I guess we're ready to do our wrap up.
Okay. Oh, Liz, first of all, as always, thank you so much for being here with us. And Liz was featured last week on the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, Religion and Spirituality Forum. And she gave such an amazing talk. I was so excited that she would be here again today with us. And Liz, come back anytime. Just thank you so much. We would be remiss if we didn't share with you the books that we've authored. Gabby's book, The Little Gatecrasher, The Life and Photos of Mace Bugan, which is a remarkable book about Gabby's uncle. And it's just fantastic. It's a great read, and now's a great time to read. And then my book, From Longing to Belonging, A Practical Guide to Including People with Disabilities and Mental Health Conditions in Your Faith Community, written before COVID-19. And while everything in this book still holds true to form, there are some things that we're doing a little bit differently now, and I'll be addressing those soon as well. So I want to thank everyone for being part of our third episode of Everyone's Welcome. We have some incredible guests coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to hear from the Reverend Dr. Holly Holt-Wohl, who will be talking about mental health conditions and how supporting people and what people need. And I think she's going to talk about this period of time that we're in right now with COVID-19, when so many of us are experiencing such changes in our lives. And Dr. Stephen Shore will be coming on. Dr. Stephen Shore is autistic. He is a researcher, and he's just, I would call him one of the few Renaissance people I know. He's incredible. So if you signed up for this webinar, you will be getting a note, an email with the link to our new home, J-Kid Philly.
J-Kid Access. You're close,
Access. J-Kid Access. I got to remember J-Kid Access, where we have our previous webinars already posted, and this one will be on there soon. Well, so thank you again for being part of today's conversation, and Gabby and I wish you a great rest of the day. Stay safe, be well, and take care of yourself. Bye now.
Shelly?
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Shelly and Gab. I wanted to tell you guys something.
Oh, okay. You know what? Laura, hang on one second. We're just going to stop recording, okay?
Okay.
And we'll invite everyone to